the final lyrics of that song, saying, from Jesus's perspective, it says, "My veins," speaking of the cross and his blood being poured out for us, that my veins made a blood-stained way to find me, and I'm patient and heartache, burning for you to ride grace on a one-way straight to find me right here because I love you. And I feel like even in that, I could stop
Hmm.
at like 4 or 5 different points in those lyrics and be like, "This is where that came from. This is what the scriptures are speaking of and what God put in my heart to highlight relating his nature." And there's so much in that, right? The blood poured out made it was his blood, the blood stained away to find me. It was his blood. Literally, God didn't just say, "I love you," and then say, "All right, peace out, figure it out." We can so often make love into something just so cheap or just a feeling or just some words that we say. But he lived out, "I love you." He modeled, "I love you," to the point of putting on flesh, knowing the plight and the road and journey of mankind, yet was sinless in the whole 33-year journey. And by way of them, him saying, "Okay, I'll take on the sins, I'll take on the burden of mankind," so that they could then draw near, because from Jesus's perspective, him saying, "Now my life can be your life. Now you don't have to, as the in the Old Testament, bring animals and sacrifice animals and do or perform a work to just cover over your sin for a brief amount of time, but you still live conscious of sin and conscious of the separation. But instead, Jesus says, I come to lay my life down. That's love. I lived love, poured out my blood so that as the life is in the blood, as the scriptures say, like blood is life, and the life of God was poured out so that it could then inhabit us, mankind, so that God could, as God the Father sees us, he sees the perfect righteousness, the perfect life of God, of Jesus himself covering us. And it's not by what we do or anymore. The old covenant was centered around, I do X so that I can get closer to righteousness. I can perform my way to essentially not being essentially left to my ruin. And then now the covenant we live in that Jesus enacted for us is he did everything. It's his finished work that I get to say yes to.